Here we have Brutus from Jazwares Fortnite Legendary Series. He comes with 4 accessories and 2 interchangeable heads. The first accessory is the Steel Shadow Harvesting Tool, and it looks just like this, pretty basic, pretty nice. Then we get this cool looking light machine gun with removable, I don't know my guns real well, so you correct me, cartridge, magazine, whichever. I believe this has the digital grayscale wrap, and that's why it's white with these little silvery gray squares all over it. Then we get a shooting crossbow. That's right, you pull this little lever right there, boom, and there it goes. This is in what I think just might be the Boogeyman wrap. I'm not sure. Boogeyman is part of the John Wick set, so I don't know if they can actually use it or not. I'm not sure how it's connected to John Wick, but it's all kind of a steely grayish black. It's a single color, and that's what it looks like to me. He has this face that you can see right there, as well as a more angry looking face if we can hold this thing up here. Can you see it past my finger? A little bit more angry, ornery looking. So height and articulation. This is a brawler's figure, so they're about 7 inches tall, and I think you can see that from right there. I'm going to show you this figure next to a few other figures, and we're going to start off with some small ones first. This is a Jazwares 6-inch Legendary Series and a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian 6-inch figures, as well as a standard Marvel Legends about size figure and about a standard G.I. Joe Classified Series figure. Next, we've got Hasbro's Fortnite Series. And let's see, who will I grab next? I'll grab Master Chief from the Spartan Collection, who doesn't want to stand up right now, but you can kind of get an idea. Master Chief definitely towers over Brutus. And the final 2, we've got Green Lantern, he doesn't want to stand either, from McFarlane DC Multiverse. And we've got The Rock, I think it's an Ultimate Edition, and it's part of whoever does the wrestling figures. I'm not into those, so I don't know. This is a beefy, big boy. I mean, look at this guy. He has 40 points of articulation, and unfortunately, there is hindrances all over the upper portion. If you can't tell just by looking at this, this guy has got some... Let's just get into it. So his head will rotate about this far. Unfortunately, if you can see right here, he does have a bit of a seam where the face fits on. We'll swap this out real quick and see if the other face does it as well. So, as you can see, unfortunately, there is a bit of a seam there, and I don't know, maybe you can use some hot water, maybe you can use the jaws of life or pressures of life, and maybe you can get it on there. So, this guy actually, he looks really good. Let me just say this first off. He looks really good. I think he looks really Gamish-like. This is a softer rubber coat. You can take this off if you really want to. I'd recommend you pull the arms back, and then you can work the jacket off that way. I also don't recommend actually taking it off. It doesn't look good unless you paint the shirt and the arms the same color. But even then, there's a bit of a... Let's see. If you can see in there, there's a bit of a weirdness there when you take the coat off, so I'd probably just leave it here. His arms rotate at the shoulder all the way around, no hindrance there. If you want to lift his arms up, he may look funny, but he goes up that high. He does have a bicep rotation here, and it kind of gets caught here on the arm. So when you rotate the bicep, it may rotate the shoulder at the same time. So you're going to want to figure out another way to rotate the bicep. If you want to bend at the elbow, that's about what you got right there. It doesn't go very far, not really. There's only a single hinge. It's not a double pin joint, but the rotation's there. He's also got the rotation, the hinge at the wrist, as well as a hinge at the fingers. He can rotate really pretty good at the torso. The waist on my figure is pretty stiff. He's got ball joints at the hips. His legs can go up there if you want him to do the splits. If you want him to sit, he's going to be looking about like that. He has a rotation at the thigh, double pin at the knee, and we've pretty much left the limitations. Whoa. So his knees can go back about that far. And he's got down here at, I guess where the top of boots would be, a rotation around the calf. And then finally, a hinge and a rotation at the ankle and a hinge at the toe. Ugh. And there we go. That's a funny look. I think he's about to fall down. You gonna fall down, Brutus? I don't know. He will that way. One thing I'm noticing is the ankles are a little bit weak, or maybe they've weakened up since I've pulled this figure out of the package. I think he's a really cool figure. The arms are really hindered by this big chest. The chest is really hindered by the big arms. Just like I pointed out, there's a lot of hindrance here. So you're not going to get him to do a lot of big... You can't get him to double hand a weapon. I'll say that. I do wanted to give, while we're in the middle of this, a quick shout out to my friend over in England, IDH Custom Toys. He's the one who got this for me. I couldn't find this in the US, but I hear it might be hitting the Ross stores, so keep your eyes out. But I want to send a big shout out to him for getting me this figure. It was really awesome of him. So, as I pointed out, let's try to gear this dude up. Oh, okay. So, real quick, not real quick, this is part of the gearing up. These finger hinges, they don't hold these weapons very well. That's about as far as I can crank that down, which is disappointingly hardly anything. And maybe it's just the hinge? I don't know. But that's about what you're looking at for having him hold this thing on both hands. I can't crank the hinge down any further. That's really disappointing. This would be awesome. Now you could have him, if you open this just a little bit here, maybe. These ones kind of click into place. You might be able to get him to, maybe not. Maybe. This part's always fun. Putting weapons in some of these figures' hands is always the best part, right? So you can kind of get him maybe to hold it. The next item would be this. Now, this is I don't know how they meant it design-wise, but this I would almost say is kind of poorly designed. The trigger here to shoot the missile is right there. You're going to put this in the hand like there, so the trigger finger is going to go between the trigger and where you're holding the hand. If you put the finger around the trigger, for one, it's going to launch that, and yeah, he'll hold it, but this sucker, this crossbow, will never hold that arrow as long as it's in Brutus's hands. I mean, it will, but well, yeah. So there's some poorly designed thing on this, and yeah, he doesn't hold that really well. So we come to the harvesting tool. You should know by now, I love just throwing figures around. So we've got this kind of cranked down, kind of, sort of. And we're going to bend this arm over. And with the magic of video cameraing, we are not going to get this into both hands. Well, easily. There. Okay, with the magic of camera work and videography, yeah, that's what he can do. If you want him to hold it with two hands, provided he can stand, there we go, that's about what it's going to look like. Now, I'm not trying to make this figure look bad. I'm really not, because I think this is actually a really awesome figure. I just think the articulation is pretty poor. I do wonder how this figure would work if it had double hinge at the elbow. I know he's a big, beefy, big-armed guy. Maybe they tried it and they just couldn't get it to work. I don't know. Squeezes down so he can hold the harvesting tool single-handedly. Actually, I think really pretty good. And that's about that. Stand, dude. Stand. Yeah, I know. You're angry. Stand. Stay. There we go. We got him standing. So yeah, I think this is a pretty awesome figure. There are some limitations in the torso area, the chest area, the arms area. This figure is what it is. I mean, he's pretty good representative of the game, of his character in game. So I think he looks really good. He's actually much better than the 4-inch version, which has a really tiny head. I think that head needed to be just a little bit bigger. Oh, one thing that I will mention, because he's got this softer rubber coat, wherever you store this figure, if you store it in a loose box or something, make sure these weapons are wrapped up in something so they're not like up against the coat. I have learned that certain paint on certain weapons, when they're up against one of these soft rubber coats or anything that's soft on any of these figures, will start to have a chemical reaction, and the paint from the weapon will leach and mess up the paint on the coat. So you don't want that. So there's a quick little warning for you. The other thing I was going to mention are these glasses. These glasses might pop off. They're kind of loose there a little bit, and they're not going to just fall off on you. At least I wouldn't think so. If they fall off, you're the rare lucky one. But as you're posing and doing things with this figure, there's a chance if something snags those glasses, then they might pop off on you. Anyway, like I said, I really like this figure. If you can find it, I do recommend picking it up. I think he's fun. I think he just looks good, despite some of the hindrances and limitations. Now it's your turn. What do you think about this figure? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. But before you go, and if you haven't already, if you want to see some unproduced Jazwares action figures, click in the video right here in the bottom left corner where I show off a few discovered unproduced action figures. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.